Hello, hello! Welcome to the Moana Adams podcast. I'm your host, Moana, a 15-year-old with a ton to say about mental health, wellness, self-love, and a whole lot more. So let's get into it. Ba-da-bum-bum-bum. Hello, hello! Welcome to episode 19. We're talking about music and TV and podcasts and just overall what we listen to on a daily basis and how it affects us and our mental state. But let's do grateful, currently loving, those things. I also want to say that I just recorded episode 18 before this. I'm batching right now. I'm so revved up today. I woke up in such a weird mood and now I'm let's do this. So we're doing it. And what am I grateful for? I'm grateful for my Invisalign because they're not in right now, but I don't wear them when I record because I have a lisp. I spent the whole year while we were in the RV with just a retainer. We paused my Invisalign because can't really go to the orthodontist every couple of weeks when we're in California or Colorado or Maine. So we took a pause and now I'm back with them and I'm very excited to get my teeth straightened out and finished up, because they definitely shifted over the last year. Not a ton, but definitely a noticeable amount for me. And also, my teeth were so bad before I did braces and Invisalign. I had to get 2 teeth pulled. I don't remember what it's called, but I had a really rough, what they call ugly duckling phase when it comes to your teeth. It's after all of your adult teeth minus wisdom teeth have come in, but before you do braces and they're straightened out. And so I'm very grateful that I got the Invisalign and they fixed it, and I'm excited to finish it out. And my currently living is streetwear. Now, normally my style is very minimalist and neutral and chic, but I love streetwear right now. I don't know what it is, but I just love it so much, and it makes me so happy. So that's my currently loving. Now, let's talk about music. So, first of all, when in our day-to-day life do we listen to music? While we're studying, when we're cleaning, in the car, when we're eating. It definitely affects our mood and how we're feeling and what we're thinking. So that's what I want to talk about today. I feel like music is pretty simple and self-explanatory for most people. It's we can tell a sad song from a happy song. We know the difference. And when we listen to happy songs, we feel happy. And when we listen to sad music, we feel sad. Or maybe we listen to sad music because we're sad. I think it's good and healthy to sit with sad music when we're feeling upset. And especially if that's what helps us feel our emotions on a deeper level. But I think it's also important to remember that the average emotion for someone lasts only 90 seconds. So sitting in the dark crying to sad music for 4 hours is not helping us be mindful of how we're feeling, but instead drawing out the negative emotions and being sad longer than it needs to be. So something that I thought of that I do sometimes is to have a set playlist with sad music, because if you're someone like me who loves music, I listen to music every single chance that I get. If I don't have to read or listen to something, I'm probably listening to music or watching a show. I take every chance I get to listen to music. And I have a ton of different playlists for different moods and feelings. And I have a sad playlist. I think a lot of people do. But my sad playlist is not your average sad playlist. It has a few songs that are sad, right? And that I really enjoy. But then it goes into happy songs. So the idea is you sit with the sad music, you feel being upset, and then you get up with the happy music and you dance it out. And you clean yourself up, you wash your face, you pull yourself together, and get back into a more positive mindset. Because we don't have to draw it out longer than it needs to be. I think it's so essential to allow ourselves to feel what we're feeling, not blocking negative emotions, because just because they're considered negative doesn't mean they're bad. Being human, we should be able to feel an array of different emotions and feel, tons of different things all the time. And we're allowed to feel every single emotion. It's so important to feel a variety of emotions throughout the day. Because if we're constantly happy, we're constantly satisfied, then we'll never be able to be mindful and sit with like stillness and silence. So, music, pay attention to the mood that you feel when you listen to certain songs and save some for certain times and others for other times. If some songs make you motivated, listen to those in the morning, but ones that are more relaxing, save them for in the afternoon or at night when you're winding down. When you're driving, focus on picking songs that won't distract you too much, but you can still enjoy. And keep your mood up while you're driving. So let's move into podcasts, TV, and movies. I think that everything we do and see and listen to, it invokes some sort of emotion, whether we notice it or not. Just for an example, when we're talking about podcasts, if you're listening to true crime that's super intense and dark and gory and talking about this guy stalking this girl or whatever it may be, you're probably going to feel more anxious. But if you're listening to a more educational podcast, you might feel curious. You want to know more. So take a minute, think about how you feel listening to me right now. How do you feel? Do you feel good, bad, motivated, upset, content, productive? How do you feel? And understand that and be like, okay, well, when I listen to Moana's podcast, I feel blank. That's just how I feel. And whatever it is, there's no right answer. Just recognizing that and understanding that. And I'm definitely not saying just because you feel anxious listening to true crime means you need to stop listening to true crime. But maybe switch it for something more light and airy when you're already feeling upset, or maybe don't listen to it as often as you already do. I'm a huge Criminal Minds fan. I'm a huge true crime fan. And something that I do is if I'm already feeling anxious, but I still want to enjoy true crime, I pick BuzzFeed Unsolved or Ghost Files, whatever Shane and Ryan are doing. Because, and if you know what I'm talking about, then this probably makes more sense, but they keep things, even though they're talking about people being murdered, they keep it comical and light and not so intense. I think it's also a good practice to watch things that are sad or scary with friends or family so that you're focused more on enjoying time with them rather than actually being terrified, and you're focused on laughing and joking around. For my friend Kate's birthday, we watched Happy Death Day, and we were all screaming the entire time, not in terror, but we were cheering on different characters that we liked and didn't like, and laughing and joking rather than going under the blanket terrified. And if you don't know, if you're thinking about the TV shows that you watch and you're like, you don't know how you're feeling when watching or listening to something, because I think it's hard to kind of recognize that, write about how you feel afterward. Find some journal prompts, and after you watch a few episodes and you get bored or scrolling or whatever it may be, take a pause, get your notes app out, get a notebook out, and just write out, brain dump how you're feeling. I think there's a lot of subconscious daily habits that we do that also go into this, like what's on our social media feed. I've talked about this before, but how does your feed make you feel? When you're scrolling, are you constantly comparing yourself to everyone else? Because I always try to remind people, social media is a highlight reel of someone's life. I definitely don't share everything on social media. I try to be as genuinely authentic and sharing good and bad as much as I possibly can, being comfortable with it, but it's not easy for me. And we also have to remember, I don't owe you anything and you don't owe me anything. I don't owe you to tell you about what's happening in my life, and you don't owe me viewing my content and engaging with it. So just remember that it might be real, but it's not everything. It's not the whole picture. So does seeing the posts that the people you follow make you feel negative or positive? Who do you follow? Right now, think about it. Who do you follow that makes you feel positive and who makes you feel negative? I go through my following lists on all my social media platforms at least once a month. Usually it's just randomly. When I feel bored, I'll think about it and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that. And here are some of the things that I ask myself. 1, how often do they post? Because if they don't post, I'm not following them. I personally have a certain number of people on each platform that I follow. It's a very hard limit, and at some point each month, I get it back down to that limit. So, 1, how often do they post? If the only reason you're following them is a courtesy because you know them in person and in your real life, you don't have to follow them. When I first was able to do social media, I followed like everybody I possibly even was acquainted with. And then I started scrolling and I'm like, I really don't care about this person's life and what they're doing. Not to be harsh, but it's true. I don't need to know that they went to dinner at this sushi restaurant on Sunday night. I don't need that information. So I unfollowed a ton of people. And it felt really good because it was just clutter. And so, are you only following these people because you know them in person? Because if that's so, go unfollow them. And I promise you they won't notice. Like, especially if they don't post. But there's no notification that gets sent when you unfollow someone on Instagram. They won't know. And the only way they would know is if they realized that one person unfollowed them and they knew that it was going to be you, so they went in and searched their following list for your name and saw it wasn't there. That's the only way they'd know. I also unfollow them if, like, politically or just generally speaking, I don't like what they post. Even if it's just a post that they'd share on their story, if I don't agree with it and it makes me feel like negatively, I'll unfollow them. If it's someone that I know in real life, that doesn't mean I'm gonna, distance myself from them. It's just that I don't need to see what they're following on social media. Just don't be scared to unfollow people because they're not gonna know. I promise, they won't know. Now, let's talk about what we listen to, radio, news, those kinds of things. I feel like when I was in, like, elementary and middle school, we listened to the radio all the time. And then, like, there was, like, a switch that flipped and everybody was only using Spotify and Apple Music. Like, I don't know how radio shows are staying in business because I don't know anybody in my life right now. Well, that's not true. Anybody, like, my age and a little bit older, I don't know anybody who listens to the radio. It's all streamed from their phone. But when I say radio, I mean, what are you listening to on your way to work or school? How does it make you feel, positive or negative? And try new things. Try new podcasts to listen to, new playlists, new stations, whatever it may be. If you have a 15-minute drive, that gives you 15 minutes to try something new and listen. And get excited about trying something new. Pick a day of the week maybe and be like, all right, every Friday morning on the way to wherever, I'm going to try something new. Close your eyes, scroll, and click. Seriously, like, experiment and have fun with it. And then let's talk about the news. Now, the news and I have a very love-hate relationship because when I was younger, I was obsessed with the news. Like, when I was in first grade, I would want to sit and watch the news. Like, I was an old lady, which I don't even know. But it was a thing. But now I completely distance myself from it. Like, I don't want to know. So, first of all, do you really need to know? I think politics and, like, everything, it's always going to be crazy. But do you really need to know? Do you really need to watch the news to get this information? Because if it was that important and it was directly going to affect you anytime soon, you'll hear it somewhere else. Someone will have a conversation about it. Someone will say something, and then you'll know. But you don't need to sit in front of the TV or scroll and look at news because media feeds off negativity. And so do you really need it? If the answer is no, then turn it off. Because it won't directly affect you anytime soon. Negativity sells, and so that's what they're selling. And people search for negativity to make themselves feel better about their own lives. So look for positive news, get rid of politics and things that are stressful and induce anxiety, because unless they're going to immediately affect you, you don't need to know. And if they are going to immediately affect you, someone else will tell you. I promise. Someone will share a post on their Instagram story. Someone will have a conversation about it and you'll hear it, or they'll ask you. Let's talk about replacements. Number 1, make a playlist that makes you happy and feels like summer sun and drinking a cold soda and eating ice cream, and get one that pumps you up and makes you feel productive and motivated. If you find me on Apple Music or Spotify, Apple Music can be difficult, but Spotify for sure, if you look me up, I have playlists on there. I have one that is very motivating, and I have one that's very happy on there. Pick podcasts that motivate and excite you. I've already shared tons. There's tons of reels on the podcast Instagram of different podcasts that I love and listen to. And search for new positive creators for your feed that post positive, happy content that makes you feel good. Try new things when you're driving. And kick out some of the news, because you don't really need to know. And if you do, someone else will tell you. I can't stress that enough. You don't have to know, I promise. You've got this. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to give this podcast a rate and review, as well as follow me on all my socials linked in the show notes. Don't forget to drink some water, and I'll talk to you later.